Trey Lance has been traded to none other than the Dallas Cowboys. And, oh, yeah, there was a football game as well. Stock up, stock down from preseason finale. Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks so much, everybody, for making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And when I say every day, I feel like we've been doing, 10 days straight of Locked On 49ers podcast with preseason games and emergency pods. And now we got trades going on. It is unbelievable what's happening with the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch both giving comment to the Trey Lance trade. The kicking situation got even weirder than we could have imagined now as we get close to the regular season. Nick Bosa still unsigned, and we got stock up, stock down from the preseason Week 3 game against the Chargers. But, Croc, we got to start here because we haven't talked about it yet, about the trade. Trey Lance going to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. And now it is official. The Trey Lance era is over for the San Francisco 49ers, really before it ever even got started. Less playing time than any top 5 draft pick in the modern draft era. You can spin it any way you want, but ultimately a massive failure and a massive disaster when it comes to the trading and drafting and maneuvering and development of one Trey Lance.
My initial thought was, wow, they got a 4th for him. I was expecting a 5th or a 6th or like a conditional pick or something along those lines, but it was a straight up 4th round pick for next year's draft. So not terrible. I mean, obviously, when you factor in what they gave up to get him, it's terrible, and there's no good way to kind of spin that aspect of it. But in the situation where, hey, we just named this guy our 3rd string quarterback and you're able to get a 4th round pick for him, I think that's the part where it's like, not bad, all things being considered.
So you're hyped on it. You're hyped on the 4th round pick.
No, I'm hyped on the fact that, okay, they got something in return when I didn't think they would get anything in return. Like, how could you? If you're a team and you're telling us, hey, we don't want this guy, how are you supposed to get anything of value for him? You said that you wanted Brandon Allen, and the way they spoke about it when they were live on TV, it's like, I just watched Brandon Allen. You can't tell me Brandon Allen is better than Trey Lance. I just watched Sam Darnold, and we've talked a lot about, Sam Darnold, and he doesn't have quite the lows. Well, tonight he started having some of those lows mixed in with a splash play to Conley. But it was kind of a weird game for everyone. And I don't think the way that the backup quarterbacks played made a good case for why you should have gotten rid of Trey Lance.
It's we've talked a lot about Trey Lance, and we kind of knew the writing was on the wall as soon as he wasn't the backup quarterback. Kyle had some interesting things to say. John had some interesting things to say here about the whole Trey Lance situation. One nugget from Kyle, though, post-game was that, and I know you're doing something else, Croc, I don't think you heard it, but Kyle said that it was a group effort. Basically, this was Trey saying that he wanted out, and his agent and the team and everybody kind of worked together to find a landing spot for him, and some more teams came stronger today, and that was the Dallas Cowboys with a better offer that made it palatable for the 49ers to trade Trey, and and apparently Trey was amenable to going to the Dallas Cowboys. And when I think about the landing spot for the Dallas Cowboys, it's a weird one because of the rivalry for the 49ers, right? And that could be, we had talked about how, oh man, don't want to end up in Seattle or Los Angeles Rams if he's cut, good coaching staff and division rivals. But this is like next on the list with the Dallas Cowboys, and for some 49ers fans, even more hated than those in division rivals. But they have a veteran quarterback that, at least in the near future, is not going anywhere. So there's no better opportunity for Trey to play with the Dallas Cowboys really than the San Francisco 49ers unless he climbs up the depth chart to that backup spot and there's an injury to Dak, but that's the same as it would have been just about anywhere else, including San Francisco.
No, well, San Francisco had him as the third string quarterback.
Well, I mean, he's not going to walk in and be the backup tomorrow for the Cowboys.
I would say that they must have some kind of plan for him if they traded a 4th round pick for him, which again is not a ton, but it's not nothing in the sense of like, all right, like we don't care what the 49ers gave up to get him, but we're going to give you a 4th. They got to pay him more than what they're paying their current backup, Cooper Rush. And Cooper Rush came in the games last year. He did some good things, but, ultimately wasn't good enough to really, win the games when they had to play the Philadelphia Eagles. And there were some other teams in there as well where it's like Cooper Rush is kind of who Cooper Rush is. So you're paying him more than you're paying Cooper Rush, and you gave up a 4th to get him. That's probably more than what you gave up to have to give Cooper Rush in the first place, probably an undrafted quarterback or wherever they took him. So they have to have some kind of plan for him. Now, long term, yeah, it might not be the spot for him. Dak Prescott, dropped my phone, excuse me. Dak Prescott is their starting quarterback. We know that. But also, Dak Prescott soon, they'll have to kind of re-up a contract for him. And I think at the same time, if you have Trey Lance, who is in year 3, I know a lot of people continue to say, oh, he's been in the league for 3 years. No, he's been in the league for 2. This is the start of year 3. And in year 2, he snapped his ankle week 2. All right. So this is the start of year 3. He has this whole year, and he has next year. And then you also, if you've seen something that you like, come pick up his 5th year option. And if you do that, now you're looking at it like, all right, Dak Prescott, you kind of have these 2 years. Trey, you just kind of chill. If we like what we see, we'll pick up that 5th year option. And if Dak is tripping, all right, we're not going to continue to pay you $45 million a year or whatever it is. We'll let you walk. And Trey, you have a year to show us what you got. Like that is something that could potentially happen down the line. And even then, Trey will only be 24, 25 years old.
I've seen this a few times. Peter in the chat says Charles Haley trade 2.0. Do you think this trade has a chance to come back and really bite the 49ers? Not only from he's good somewhere else perspective, because Charles Haley was great for the 49ers first before he was great with the Dallas Cowboys, but actually playing and beating the San Francisco 49ers and coming back to beat them, right? Like, because look, if he ends up this year sort of battling his way through and learning the offense with the Dallas Cowboys, he's one play away, maybe in a playoff game, potentially playing against the 49ers. Like that is a distinct possibility. Trey Lance could face the 49ers this year in January.
Yeah, that would be now. Okay. And I hated that he went to Dallas Cowboys. When I saw him go to Dallas, my initial reaction was the Cowboys, right? Because I know my brother, he's calling me and everything that's going on there. My big brother, diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. But I wanted to root for Trey Lance wherever he went. I cannot root for Trey Lance with that star on his helmet. Like,
it's hard with the Cowboys, right?
Especially against the 49ers.
Feel it right now. That's how a lot of 49ers fans are like, oh, the Cowboys? That's just gross. What's more gross? Trey Lance on the Cowboys or Jimmy G on the Raiders?
Trey Lance on the Cowboys.
Okay.
I feel like Jimmy G to the Raiders, that's kind of like a 49er tradition. It's like when the 49ers don't want you anymore, you go to the Raiders. Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, all these other guys. And those guys were actually great. Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously good for the 49ers. But that one is just kind of like, whatever. The Cowboys, we just had to play those teams back-to-back playoffs. You had to play the Cowboys. You had to go to Jerry World. Then they came here, and it's like a real rivalry from the 90s, and it feels like it's sparking up now. And you kind of put this pawn in the middle of that rivalry to that team. And God forbid he has to play against the 49ers. Maybe it's good right now. Hey, man, maybe he still can't see the field well and the 49ers kick his butt. But if somehow, some way, all of a sudden he gets some games under his belt and it starts to kind of trend upward for him, and an offense that might not ask him to do the same things that the 49ers offense asked him to do, which that's a big part of this. I don't think he fit what the Niners were asking him to do, being this drop back, rhythm, precise passer. He's more like Dak Prescott, where it's just like, I can drop back, let's spread it out. I got these receivers running, downfield, simple concepts, and let me just hit the open guy. That might be better for him. I don't know. But if it is, and he has to play against the 49ers, and all of a sudden he just has this miracle game like we saw from Jarrett Stidham last year with the Raiders, that would crush me.
It does add a little twist to that rivalry for sure, and add some spice to it. Okay, more on the Trey Lance stuff. Kyle and John Lynch's comments about it. Is it the worst move in NFL history what the 49ers did in the draft in 2021? And stock up, stock down from preseason week number 3 next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Harry's Razors. No matter why you shave, Harry's has you covered for the best shave of your life at a price you'll love. For example, I might be shaving my beard. Croc might be shaving the top of his head, but you still get, no matter where you're shaving, the legendary high-quality razors to skin products like exfoliating face wash and hydrating lotion. Harry's gives you a premium shave without the premium price tag. Get better quality and better price than any other razors on the market when you get Harry's delivered right to your door. And by the way, the special deal here, harrys.com/NFL is where you go. The starter set with a $13 value you can get for just $3 at harrys.com/NFL. It includes 5-blade German engineered razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover. And you can schedule delivery for refills as low as $2, half of what you pay for other blades. So get the best shave ever this summer with Harry's razors and skin products. Get a $13 starter set for just $3 at harrys.com/NFL. That's harrys.com/NFL for a $3 starter set. Okay. RG3, who's been through this, he's been kind of Trey Lance, right, for Kyle Shanahan in the past. And RG3 said that this is officially now the worst trade of all time. And this is what RG3 had to say today. It's official. The 49ers' decision to give up 3 first-round picks and move up and draft Trey Lance is the worst draft day move of all time. It wasn't on draft day. It was before that, but the pick was on draft day. Only reason Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch aren't fired is they hit on the last pick of last year's draft in Brock Purdy. What do you think about that? Worst move of all time, Croc?
No. And I'm not this guy that remembers every single draft trade there's ever been, but there's definitely 2 that come to mind right away that seem far worse. The Ricky Williams trade, they traded every pick they had for like 2 years to get Ricky Williams to the New Orleans Saints. Then he went and took a picture with Mike Ditka in a dress. That made it even worse. And the Herschel Walker trade.
That was definitely a bigger spectacle for sure. At least Ricky Williams played well for the Saints. And then they got even more back when they traded him away too, right?
I don't remember them trading him away.
I don't remember how that ended, but I thought they traded him and maybe got a first-round pick too.
But what about the Herschel Walker trade?
Yeah.
And I don't remember the specifics of that, but I know Dallas Cowboys got a ton that helped them really just kind of build an entire roster.
Yeah, it was like Vikings. That was such a weird trade too, because the Vikings gave up a bunch of players, but then there was stipulations with the players so that if Dallas cut the players, they would get a draft pick instead. And the Cowboys are like, dude, we're not going to keep any of these dudes. We're going to take the picks for them. Ended up with like multiple picks, and it helped them build what turned out to be, multiple time Super Bowl winning roster.
So let me tell you what the Dallas Cowboys got. All right. And you let me know if this sounds like the worst trade ever, which it does to me. First of all, they got 4 players: Jesse Solomon, David Howard, Isaac Holt, Alex Stewart. Maybe they were trash. I don't know. But the draft picks, and these were conditional on those guys being let go. Well, some of them, not even all of them. First round pick, second round pick, 6th round pick, first round pick, second round pick, first round pick, second round pick, third round pick. And then Herschel Walker went to the Vikings and was trash.
That's insane. So
that was the worst.
The way the 49ers trade was only a draft trade. So if you take the veteran angle out of it, then I think the Trey Lance move might be a contender because it's pretty bad. But it's telling when you can only think of a couple trades offhand that you think might even be worse in NFL history. So that's what we're talking about. This is a debacle. And Kyle did kind of take some responsibility. Said he feels bad, like he didn't do enough for Trey. But but he also explained how he didn't do enough or how it wasn't his fault in the circumstances, and he explained that.
So he doesn't feel bad.
And there's the injury. He doesn't really, but he kind of wants to try to convey that, and I understand where he's going. And both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said the same phrase, so clearly this is the company line on this whole thing: is they took a shot. They took a shot. It didn't work out. And so now it's the grade is not on them taking a shot. The grade is not on why they thought they needed to take a shot. The grade is on the shot that they took and how they took it. And it doesn't matter what you got back, sunk cost fallacies and all that stuff. That's not the important part. What the 49ers got back was not the important part. It was the process that got them there is the important part. And when you look at Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and how they built the roster, and they landed Brock Purdy, and for all practical purposes, the debacle of the Trey Lance thing is not going to hurt the 49ers. It's not going to hurt the career standing of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch as far as their current jobs. And it's not hurting the San Francisco 49ers currently because they found that quarterback, the gem of a quarterback in the 7th round, as long as Brock Purdy is what we saw last year and continues to be what Kyle Shanahan thinks he is. But the takeaway from it is, where are the 49ers process-wise? Are they going to self-scout? Are they going to learn from some of the mistakes they've made, some of the really good things they've done in the draft as well, team building-wise? And they've hit on a ton. They've been amazing in the late rounds, but they've done some really weird stuff rounds 1, 3, right? So can they learn from that? Because I don't know if it's sustainable to say we're just going to keep drafting starting caliber quarterbacks and starters and all pros rounds 5 through 7. That doesn't happen. Do the 49ers have magic? They're going to keep doing that? Because if they weren't doing that, then the weird stuff would really hurt. But they did do that. So are those things going to even out? Is the process bad? Do they need to fix the process here? Are they going to start getting luckier in the early rounds and not as lucky? Is luck a big part of all this? So I just have some questions about process with the 49ers and how they're doing some things, because when it comes to the Trey Lance trade and even the Christian McCaffrey trade, like, Lance could have been good. That doesn't mean the process was great. It's process versus results. Just because you outbid everybody doesn't make you a savvy manager, right? Like, me and my neighbor could have the same income, and I could go out to a classic car show and win an auction and drive $100,000 car home and be like, hey, pretty cool. This guy's doing great. Look at this awesome car he got, right? That doesn't mean it's a savvy move. I just paid more than anybody else is willing to pay for it. You know what I mean? And that's what the McCaffrey trade was. That's what the Lance trade was, going up. Is like, we're just going to give too much up to get this thing. That's not a savvy maneuver, right? So just because the McCaffrey thing looks good right now and he's playing well, and hopefully that continues and McCaffrey doesn't get hurt going forward, they were willing to pay more than everybody. That's not savvy. That's just like, here's we're gonna pay for it, and hopefully it works out. And it's still not a great process to me.
I don't think they have to learn from it. So
you think they're going to keep drafting stars in round 5?
I don't know if they have their evaluation process and they go about finding their players that way. So they're going to keep doing that. Now, whatever their thoughts were to trade up what they did for the quarterback. Again, you want to trade that, okay, because you want to go get this guy that you think is a game changer. Cool. But once I heard their thoughts behind it, that's when, as you guys can tell with my tone over the last couple of days, I'm all the way out on what you just did. And it's like, well, no wonder this didn't work out. No wonder it didn't work out. Because look at how you did this and look at what your thoughts were behind it. Very, very arrogant like. And luckily they did draft Brock Purdy. And luckily they did find somebody like Brock who's able to come in right now and play very well. So their very flawed process isn't, you can't really kill them over it, because it's like, well, did it really matter? Like, we went to an NFC championship game, went to another one. And I would say, you know what? That's a very valid argument. Cool. And I understand that. But for the player that you gave up a lot for, I think, here's the thing. I think they did something different with that situation in the way that they went about developing him, that nobody else in the NFL would do that same thing. Like, there's not going to be anybody else copying that process of this is the best way to develop a young quarterback.
No,
I just watched Anthony Richardson complete 6 out of 17 passes for the Colts. And I know that stinks, right? And he's like 45% completions in the preseason. And guess what? They're going to ride with it. Because eventually it's like, you know what? This is where he's starting off. Likely can hopefully only get better. But we're going to see it through and we're going to find out. We're not going to have him compete against a Jimmy Garoppolo caliber quarterback, right? That's going to, that has the team that everybody loves. He's the leader and he's led them to championship games. We're not going to have him behind the guy like that. We're going to just say, nah, this is your squad. You got Gardner Minshew. Don't worry about him. Do your thing. Complete your 45% passing. And it's only up from here. Let's continue to work towards doing everything possible to get you to where we need you to be, to where when you do take that jump, we're ready. We're threatening guys. Whatever the 49ers did, like the way they did it, I don't think anybody will copy that blueprint. And people try to copy blueprint. NFL, what they say, copycat league.
Copycat league.
Everybody, you try to copy. You won't copy that blueprint. What they just did. Oh yeah, let's trade all this up. Even though we're really only just trying to get cheaper at the quarterback position. Even though we did call and ask for Matthew Stafford and Deshaun Watson, and we called for Aaron Rodgers, but we want to get cheaper. But we want to get these expensive guys, but we want to get cheaper, and we're going to do it the day before the draft, even though we traded 3 picks to get this guy, and we've known that we wanted him for a couple of weeks now, but we still want to look and see if we want Aaron Rodgers, and then we're going to draft him, but we're only going to play Jimmy Garoppolo for this year because nobody's going to beat him out, but then we're going to throw this guy in here the next year, and, if you snap your ankle, don't worry, because Brock Purdy comes in, he's going to play well, and you just get out of here. Nobody's going to copy that for him. I promise you nobody's going to copy that.
That's what I'm talking about. There's no process. You can't write that in a book and say, hey, light high draft picks on fire, and then draft historically amazing in rounds 5 through 7. You can't write that book. I was on Locked On Titans after Rand Carthon got hired. He's like, what is he going to take from the 49ers? I was like, well, he's not going to take their blueprint on how to build a roster because you can't. It's so unorthodox. And props to the 49ers. They've landed here where we are now with a great roster, but you cannot write a blueprint on how to do it like the 49ers did. So that's why that's what I'm talking about. Like, okay, those 5th rounders dry up, those 7th rounders dry up. How's that go into the future, right? If you're still doing the other things bad, or is it luck and the late picks are going to even out and not be as good? The earlier picks are going to get better and they're going to, do some things differently and luck is going to even those things out. Is that possibly what we're talking about in the future for the 49ers? But you cannot draw up a blueprint about how this team was built.
I will say, because I want to make sure that this doesn't get lost in all this, regardless of them botching that situation, this is a damn good team. And whatever the 49ers odds were to win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl before the Trey Lance trade is the same after. So it ain't like it did anything to this team. This team can still be rolling. Now, you watch this game and hopefully, we're going to get to it eventually and talk about some of the things that, might worry, just stopping the run. Is that something that's going to be consistent? We've seen that throughout preseason. They don't got all their guys. There's no Nick Bosa, so it's kind of hard to gauge how important that is. I saw the lack of athleticism on the back end when they were chasing Kelly. And it's like he outruns Diamador Lenore. How is that possible, right? But overall, we know this is going to be a well-coached team. They're going to play well. You saw the offense. That looked like they were kind of in mid-season form. They're moving the ball down the field. So regardless of the Trey Lance situation, this team is fine. We can be critical of that situation and how they handled it, but still acknowledge that this is a damn good football team coached by some damn good coaches. They just got weird philosophy when it comes to roster building that nobody else will probably take that kind of philosophy with them.
Yep. And it can be equally true that the 49ers are a good football team right now and royally screwed up this one massive thing, which was Trey Lance. And those are both true. All right. Next, let's break down this football game a little bit. We're going to do a rewatch as well when we come back Monday and talk more about this game. But our biggest stock up, stock downs versus the Chargers in the preseason finale next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. August is here. You know what that means? Everyone's getting ready for their fantasy drafts, their home league drafts, the official fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league with Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Leagues. All you do is one live snake draft, no waivers, no trades. You can do a short draft or a long draft. Underdog sets your best lineup every week. You don't have to do anything after your team is drafted. Your best number one lineup will automatically get those points every single week for you. Try it out with Underdog's Best Ball Mania Tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back and even bigger. $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. So visit underdogfantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with promo code Locked On to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. All right. Another thing Kyle Shanahan said in the post-game presser, Croc, was that they have to come up with a plan B at kicker. And he was asked specifically about Robbie Gould, and he said, we're going to have to come up with something, and we haven't talked about what that is yet because the calf injury, and I don't know how Zane Gonzalez hurt himself pregame and hurt his calf. This was his opportunity. He's gone. Kyle was like, well, it's not going to be Zane Gonzalez. I don't think he's going to be ready for week one. Bye-bye, Zane Gonzalez. You hurt your calf pregame, couldn't even have the opportunity to kick a field goal and win this job. Like, we never knew you, Zane Gonzalez. Jake Moody, he said he's hoping with his quad injury that he's going to be ready for week one, not even sure there. So the 49ers are for sure going to bring in some kind of kicker. There's not a lot of great kickers out there, but we do know one that's never missed a playoff kick, and that is Robbie Gould. This is more insane than the Jimmy Garoppolo coming back last year. If all of a sudden in late August, signing his name to paper with the San Francisco 49ers is Robbie Gould, Croc? Can you imagine if I told you 6 months ago, Trey Lance won't be on the 49ers and Robbie Gould will be? Like in May after the draft?
Yeah, they might need it, man. You got guys hurting their soft tissue injuries, man. And I don't know what it is with these kickers, but I thought it was weird that they had two and they were carrying both guys. And now I'm like, they're not carrying enough kickers. The guy that we feel like is important. First of all, throughout preseason so far, I don't want to be Debbie Downer or the sky is falling. I see everybody in the chat talking about the sky is falling. But the special teams has been a disaster throughout preseason. So that's something, and we saw that in 2021, I believe it was, where the special teams unit wasn't great. They are going to have to fix that. And I think the only way to fix it, you might have to fire whoever your special teams coach is right now because it has not been good.
They
for
just
whatever reason.
Remember after the really bad special teams year they had in 2021. And they signed a bunch of dudes. Remember they signed George Odom, and they're like, we're getting good on special teams. We're going to focus on signing all these special teams dudes. And those guys are okay, actually. They're having some troubles in some other spots there.
They might not be spending enough time on special teams. And I've seen them do their special teams drills. It looks pretty normal. Looks normal.
I don't know what's normal. They spend 2 seconds going half-ass down the field. And like, to me, that doesn't look like they're practicing much. Yeah. I think that's something you kind of need to practice in the preseason. I do think Wisnowski's messing around with his kicks, although he's not supposed to be the guy doing kickoffs, and he kicked it really short. But he's got a big leg. I don't know how that's possible. How can you have a big leg and still kick kickoffs?
It was actually it worked out well though, because you tackled the guy like the 18-yard line.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was almost like there's more hang time to it, and his punts have been weird. But I think he's trying things. I don't know if we should take too much about Wisnowski, and he shanked the field goal, so emergency kicker situation is not great, I guess. But I don't know if that was because of use checks hold or what, but. It's so weird. I can't believe we're here with it's almost more unbelievable that we're here right now with the kicking situation than with the Trey Lance and the quarterback situation.
Yeah. A worse situation, I would say, is probably defending the run, right? That's something that I feel like throughout preseason, it just hasn't been great. They've been gashed, especially up the middle, people running right at them. And I was watching Javon Kinlaw. And I think Kinlaw had some terrific plays. We saw him push the pocket where Fred Warner got the sack, did the Nick Bosa celebration. I loved seeing that. We also saw him push the pocket when another player got a sack. It was like 3 guys got there at one time, but part of it was Javon Kinlaw just moving bodies. Where he's not moving bodies is in the run game. All right. So with the pass, he's doing a good job, but it's like, dude, you're the biggest, strongest guy. How do you keep getting pushed out of holes? I mean, and it was all night long. That 75-yard run, watch Javon Kinlaw on that 75-yard run. Kicked out the club, pushed all the way down the line of scrimmage to the right of him and opened up a huge gap. Then you had a missed tackle by Hawkins, who I think Hawkins has been good, but he did miss 2 tackles this game that I noticed, but was good in coverage and had a nice PBU right before halftime on third down, good third down stop. But like Kinlaw, can you be stout, anchor down, and not turn one way or another. He's kind of letting the offensive lineman take them where they want. It's like, oh, you want to go this way? Okay, I'm just gonna ride you this way a little bit, and he's creating like these massive holes.
It's funny because Kinlaw, every year it's the same story. Comes to the camp, looks great, working hard, knee feels better, inconsistent. Once he gets on the field and starts playing games, and he makes a big play, you're like, oh yeah, look at that push from Kinlaw, gets inside and wrecks a play, and then he gets the gate. He opens the gate in the run game on the next play. So it's like inconsistency up and down.
Gap integrity. That's what they call it. He has no gap integrity.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate with Kinlaw, and really it's more of the same. And he has one. It's always been flash plays for him where he plays well and he lacks consistency, and it just looks like the same guy to me. But they're not counting on him to be a starter. Drake Jackson and Kinlaw are playing late into the third quarter. Who started at end? It was
Farrell.
But who was on the other side?
I don't remember who was on the other side.
Okay.
I just remember seeing number 94, and I just in my head when I see 94, I think of Emenehu, and he's kind of built like Emenehu.
He's bigger.
Yeah. Like, oh, no, it's not Emenehu. That's Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah, it's so like, the D-line depth. I've seen it in the chat a little bit. It's a problem. D-line depth is definitely a problem, especially seeing it now with Bosa still not signed. By the way, did you hear Rappaport's comments on Bosa, Croc?
I did. They ain't close.
That didn't sound good. He's like, this sounds not good. It could go into the season, hunkered down. They're like far apart on something.
How did they not mention that at all?
First report I've heard from anything linking out of anywhere that things weren't just like, a tough negotiation and that's it.
How is that not talked about? First of all, you had John Lynch in the booth with you. They asked, I don't even know if they asked the question about Trey Lance, but they kind of like alluded to it, and he went off and was like, yeah, he took accountability, all that stuff, whatever.
Took a shot.
And then that's it. You don't ask him, well, hey, the best player on your team, Nick Bosa, what about him? Like nothing. You say nothing. And I don't know if it's the 49ers, but somebody made KBR take down they tweeted out something. Did you see that?
Yeah, they took down that interview with Ian Rappaport, right? That said all that.
Gone.
Yeah. So I wonder if that is really interesting. Yeah. So something's going on there. I feel worse about the Bosa thing than I did a couple of days ago. That's for sure.
I was telling everybody, don't worry about it. That's the least I'm worried about. They're going to get their best player signed, and it sounds like he's not even talking. I don't know. They come. You know what my demands are. If you don't reach them, then I guess I just won't be playing with you. Sorry.
I still think it's going to get done. I don't know if he's going to be willing to lose game checks, depending on how far apart. Like, what's the thing that they're worried about? We'll see what ends up happening there. But I think they're just tough negotiators, that Bosa family. And I still do think it's going to get done. But that report was strange. And the fact they took it down leads kind of to more credence to it, right? Makes it seem more valid and more damning to the whole situation. I've got a stock up for you, Croc. And it's a name that I didn't think I would bring up. And it's Keith Ishmael, number 67 on the San Francisco 49ers offensive line. And it looks like he's leapfrogged Jason Poe. He was in there at right guard today, first ahead of Jason Poe with the second unit. And then he's got versatility, and he was playing center after that, as he had been after Feliciano. So that tells me they're trying him at other positions, and that he has an opportunity to be one of those backup interior offensive linemen with some flexibility to play maybe multiple spots, maybe both guard spots and center. So that's valuable to have a guy who can play multiple spots on the offensive line. Your backups have to be versatile because you only dress 7 on game day. And so both guys, you got to have a guy that can play guard and tackle, and a guy that can play center and guard. So
that's a good eye, because I ain't know this buddy at all.
and he was looking okay. He's looking decent. And Nick Zakel's been the worst player of any 49er this preseason. And they still have thrown him out there with the 2s, which I don't get. So 63 if 63 makes the roster, I don't know what they're doing. So 67, I think that's one of my dark horses to make the final 53 right now. Keith Ishmael. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. I will say this about the offensive line. And I know we haven't even we'll touch more on the specifics of the offense and whatnot. But I thought, for the most part, throughout the night, I thought the offensive line did very well in the passing game, protecting the quarterbacks, in the running game, creating these really big gaps or keeping kind of bodies off of the running backs. I thought the offensive line was really good. And that was without Trent Williams.
It definitely wasn't as bad for those in pass protection it had been for the first couple of preseason games.
Yeah, I thought that was the best I've seen them. Like the quarterback's comfortable. I was watching Brock Purdy, and he just had time going through his reads, and it's like, boom, let me be accurate here, and let me hit this check down here, and let me hit Debo here. And I was like, that was pretty good. Now you start throwing past 10 yards. I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about that. I know I don't want to be Debbie Downer right now, but
he's smooth. Like he's got poise. It's like it just.
Did you hear Tim Ryan? Like Brock Purdy clearly just airmailed the ball to Debo Samuel on the sideline. He was like, "Yeah, Debo was covered." I'm like, "Covered by who?"
Was that the one where he said he threw it away on the screen pass?
No, there was a screen pass. Then he threw a sideline ball to Debo.
Okay. No, I didn't catch that one.
Then he was like, "Oh yeah, oh man, he threw a great ball to Brandon Ayuk." I'm like, Brandon Ayuk settled in the soft spot. He sat down there. And how do you go from I'm settled in the soft spot to I'm having to jump and dive to the left to try to catch a ball? Like it was poorly thrown, and it's fine. Look, this is the thing. I don't know if they're trying to overcompensate something. They kind of did it later with Sam Darnold, and they're like, "Oh, this is a good location." I'm like, he threw the ball to the guy. He had to turn around and catch the ball by Sam. Like that was. So don't overcompensate because Trey Lance got traded, and you're trying to make it seem like this is why. Like he was always going to get traded. Brock's going to be the guy. Don't worry, he doesn't have to be perfect. It was a bad throw by Brock here. It was a bad throw on Mr. Debo, but that's fine. He did these other things very well. He was accurate here. He hit this throw. He ran in for a touchdown. Like those things are good. Like you could say it's okay if he misses a throw here.
There's nobody's going to take his job now. He's the guy. The fans love him. The fans hated Darnold anyway. That like Trey Lance, and so in a lot of ways, Darnold was the buffer. So there we didn't get the whole. We didn't get the whole Brock versus Trey thing this preseason. It ended up being Sam versus Trey. And so like Purdy was able to skate through and everyone's like, all right, Purdy's good. Fine. Let's go. Please be good. Brock Purdy. Let's go. So really quick, Jordan Mason start out the game, looked great. It wasn't for the fumble. He would be a clear stock up because he got the treatment of being well ahead of Ty Davis Price on the depth chart because Jordan Mason left the game and then Ty Davis Price played nearly the rest of the game. Once the ones were out until Brian Hill came in the game, and it's probably a stock up for TDP because he looked pretty decent. He looked good, and there's nobody else I think that even has an opportunity to make the roster. I think we know exactly which four, and only those four are going to make the roster at running back for the 49ers.
Yeah, the running backs. I mean, they look strong. They're running strong. Again, I talked about the offensive line. I think they created the holes, but it allowed you to see just how well some of these guys move. And I thought TDP, Mason, they ran very well. I love the way Ty Davis Price runs, and I'm glad with them creating some of the run lanes, you were able to actually see like how fluid of a runner he is as a big guy. Then he's finishing these runs really strong. And then obviously with Jordan Mason, I mean, he just runs with violence, and that was fun to see. Terrible fumble. And as a matter of fact, he fumbled on the 1 yard line. Should have never even been a play that happened because Brandon Ayuk got tackled on the 2. So I blame Brandon Ayuk for the fumble by Jordan Mason. Yeah,
it was a nice little play for Ayuk to escape, but you got to house it once you do escape.
You got to get in the zone. That's the difference, right? When you think of the top guys, and we want to place him in that realm of guys. Let's say just Debo Samuel. You think Debo Samuel gets caught there? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Right? He takes off. His acceleration is great.
But he's different. It takes 3 dudes to get him down.
Well, that too, but he just runs off on whoever that guy was. He was wearing like a number 50 something that tackled him. Like that guy doesn't get to Debo. It just doesn't happen.
We got to go. We're way over time here, and we're gonna hear it. I'm sure because Ross, by the way, it was his 5-year anniversary with the network. So congratulations, Ross. He's the network coordinator for the NFL side of things. Also the host of Locked On Saints. Great dude. And he lets us know when we go too long, which we're doing right now. But
sorry, Ross.
Yeah, the big Trey Lance news, and so extra pod. This is a bonus pod anyway. Does it count as a regular pod? Because we're doing extra this week.
Right.
Secondary, overall speed.
I think it's an issue. Well, what's my favorite saying about speed?
It doesn't matter until it does.
It doesn't matter until it does. You don't got to be fast until you got to be fast. and they needed somebody to be fast on that 75-yard touchdown run. And somehow Kelly, who's not a Blazer, was faster than anybody you had on defense. And that is not ideal.
Not ideal. Okay, we're going to come back. We're going to have our 53-man roster projection, more thoughts from a rewatch from this game when we come back Monday. Really appreciate all you guys hanging out with us late tonight after this 7 o'clock start, late night football game. Croc and I back next time. Appreciate all the everydayers out there. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Talk to you then. Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.